I'll never forget what I saw when I pulled into the driveway that Saturday afternoon. I had only stepped out for a quick trip to the hardware store, maybe 45 minutes, tops. But when I came back, our moving truck sat half unloaded, and the front yard looked like a tornado had touched down. Boxes we had stacked so carefully were now scattered across the lawn like someone had kicked over an anthill. Some had burst open. My grandmother's china lay in shattered pieces. Family photo albums were strewn in the dirt. And standing smack in the middle of the chaos, arms crossed and a smug smile stretching across her face, was Karen, the HOA president. Behind her stood my husband, Michael, motionless, holding his phone. His face was unreadable, but I recognized the angle of the phone. He was recording. At the time, I had no idea that this woman had just made the biggest mistake of her entitled life. We'd only moved into Willowbrook Estates 3 days earlier. After years of cramped apartment living, this neighborhood had seemed like a dream. Tree-lined streets, manicured lawns, and, according to the realtor, a very active homeowners association. I should have paid more attention to the way she said active, with that tight-lipped grimace. From the moment our moving truck arrived, I noticed a woman across the street watching us from her porch like a hawk. She had the unmistakable air of someone who thought she ran the place. Bleached blonde bob, designer athleisure that had never seen a treadmill, and eyes that missed nothing. She looked like a self-appointed sheriff, eager to enforce her own version of the law. The first warning came within hours. I was carrying boxes from the truck when she strutted across the street, skipping any pleasantries like hello or welcome. Instead, she thrust a printed page at me. Moving vehicles may not remain on the property for more than 24 hours, she said matter-of-factly. I blinked. We just got here. We'll need the weekend to unload. She pursed her lips like I just suggested we paint the house neon green. 24 hours, she repeated, tapping the paper with one perfectly manicured finger. I'm Karen Henderson, HOA president. We have standards here. Michael had come out then, introduced himself politely, and reassured her we'd finish unloading as quickly as possible. She gave him a once-over, sniffed, and marched back to her house without another word. The next morning, I found a bright orange violation notice tucked under our doormat. Boxes visible from the street, 12-hour correction period. I had left a few boxes on the porch overnight, planning to bring them in first thing. Apparently, first thing wasn't early enough for Karen. When Michael saw the notice, he just gave that quiet smile, the one that meant he was filing it away for later. My husband doesn't forget details. Comes with the job, I suppose. By noon, she was back again. This time, she claimed our truck was parked 2 inches over the sidewalk line. An hour later, she complained that the sound of us moving furniture was disturbing the peace. It was 2 p.m. on a Friday. Saturday morning had started peacefully. Michael had gone to his new office to set up, and I was making progress with the unpacking. I ran out of shelf brackets, so I zipped over to the hardware store. When I returned, the war zone. Karen stood like a general surveying a battlefield, utterly unbothered by the destruction around her. These boxes were in violation of HOA Code 7.3, she said when she saw me. Temporary structures may not be erected on front lawns. I stared at her. You knocked over our boxes? I rectified the violation, she replied, smug as ever. Perhaps next time you'll read the HOA guidelines before moving into a respectable neighborhood. That's when I noticed Michael. He was standing near the front door, phone angled just right. He wasn't just watching, he was building a case. Karen, oblivious, launched into a lecture about property values and neighborhood standards while I knelt to gather our family photos from the dirt. Do you have any idea what you've done to our things? I asked. Your belongings should have been properly stored, she sniffed. I've documented everything for the HOA board. There will be fines, of course. Excessive clutter, temporary structures, failure to comply with correction notices. That's when Michael stepped forward. Calm, professional. His courtroom voice. Ma'am, he said, did you just admit to intentionally damaging our property? Karen finally spun around, startled. And you are? Michael Chun, he replied, the homeowner, an assistant district attorney. Karen's reaction to Michael's introduction wasn't what most people might expect. She didn't shrink back. She didn't apologize. If anything, she doubled down. "I don't care if you're president," she snapped. "In this neighborhood, I am the law. The HOA board will hear about your threats." Michael didn't flinch. "Threats," he repeated calmly. "All I did was ask if you damaged our property, which you did, on video, after verbally admitting it." His voice was level, his tone precise. "That's destruction of property. Trespassing. Harassment." Karen actually laughed. "Good luck proving anything. I was enforcing HOA regulations. You're really calling the police over a few cardboard boxes?" Michael smiled again, that quiet, dangerous smile I knew well. "Who said anything about cardboard boxes?" he asked. "You destroyed family heirlooms, electronics, important documents. The total value exceeds $2,000. That makes it a felony." For the first time, Karen's confident facade cracked. "You can't prove the value," she muttered, her voice losing some of its edge. Michael turned slightly, gesturing toward our neighbor Jim, who I hadn't even noticed until that moment. He was standing at the edge of his lawn, phone in hand. "Got the whole thing on video," Jim called out. "Saw her tossing boxes around like a maniac. Been waiting for someone to finally stand up to her nonsense." Karen's face drained of color. "This is a setup," she shouted. "You're all conspiring against me." "No conspiracy," Michael said, pulling out his phone. "Just documentation." He dialed 911 and put the call on speaker. "911, what's your emergency?" "We need to report destruction of property and harassment," Michael said evenly, "for 72 Willowbrook Drive. The suspect is still on site. We have video evidence and eyewitnesses." Karen turned to leave, but Michael calmly stepped into her path. "You want to stay put until the police arrive," he said. "Leaving the scene of a crime you just admitted to would be inadvisable." "You can't make me stay," she shrieked. "I know my rights." "You should," Michael replied. "You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you exercise it." The police arrived within 10 minutes. 2 officers who looked less than thrilled to be responding to a suburban drama, until Michael introduced himself and showed them the footage. Their tone changed immediately. The older officer looked at Karen, his expression unreadable. "Mrs. Henderson, we've received multiple complaints about your behavior over the years. Looks like you finally picked the wrong house." As they took statements, Karen's story shifted several times. First, the boxes had simply fallen over. Then she claimed they toppled while she was inspecting for violations. Finally, she insisted she had the authority as HOA president to do what she did. The officers weren't buying any of it. The younger one crouched to inspect the wreckage, taking notes and snapping photos. "This looks like several $1,000s in damages," he said. "That's felony territory." Karen's tone shifted from smug to desperate. "Then you're harassing me," she screeched. "I'll have your badges." The older officer sighed. "Ma'am, turn around and put your hands behind your back." The click of the handcuffs was strangely satisfying. By now, a small crowd had gathered, neighbors who had also suffered under Karen's self-appointed rule. They watched in silence as the officers guided her to the patrol car. She was still ranting about HOA codes and her authority. But once the door shut behind her, her voice was silenced. Michael turned to me, his expression softening for the first time all day. "You okay?" I nodded, still absorbing the chaos. Our belongings were still scattered across the lawn. But somehow, that didn't seem as important anymore. The older officer approached us. "We'll need you to come down and file a report. Given the amount of damage and the video evidence, the prosecutor's office will likely press charges." Michael nodded. "I'll be handling this personally." The officer smirked. "Bet you will?" The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal motions and court dates, which Michael navigated with effortless precision. Karen, of course, lawyered up, hired someone expensive and theatrical who tried everything to get the charges dismissed. She claimed mental stress, blamed hormonal imbalances. At one point, she even argued that HOA presidents had qualified immunity. None of it worked. Michael had built an airtight case, not just from that day's footage, but with evidence he quietly gathered showing a pattern of harassment. Turns out we weren't her first victims. Once news spread, other neighbors came forward, each with their own stories, photos, and videos. When the trial finally came, it was almost anticlimactic. Faced with overwhelming evidence in a courtroom full of people who understood exactly what kind of hell a power-drunk HOA president could unleash, Karen took a plea deal. The judge didn't hold back. "Mrs. Henderson," he said, peering at her over his glasses, "you abuse a minor position of authority to terrorize your neighbors and destroy personal property. This court sentences you to 18 months probation, 40 hours of community service, and restitution totaling $4,300. You are also barred from serving on any homeowners association board for 5 years. The gavel struck the bench with a satisfying thud. Karen looked stunned. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Her face cycled through shades of red and purple as the reality sank in. "That's not fair," she finally whispered, voice cracking as tears welled in her eyes. But for the first time since we'd moved in, Willowbrook Estates felt like home.